Hello and welcome, dear listeners, to episode 110 of the Reformed Gamers, the show all about theology, video games, Nintendo Labo, and anything else I guess we can think of. I'm your something to do with cardboard host, Logan.
And I'm his co-host, Adam.
I know we're probably going to talk about this in the news, but Nintendo Labo? What? Did we get to talk about this last episode?
We didn't, and I didn't have it in the news, so if we're going to talk about it now, might be the place.
When I first saw it, I was like, cardboard? Are you serious? This is stupid. And then I saw how they were using it, and I'm like, okay, this is either the dumbest thing Nintendo's ever come up with, or this is the most genius thing that has ever happened in the world.
I just kept thinking, this is black magic. How are they making these things move with Joy-Con?
Right.
Or just the Switch system? I'm like, how is this happening? I mean, super creative. My nephew will probably get super into it if he ever gets one. I mean, there's a lot of cool things that can come with it. I think they've got some questions that they have to answer in regards to durability of the cardboard and some longevity of it. But I mean, it's neat. It's crazy. I can't believe it's an actual thing. It's so Nintendo. But I just could not believe. I was like, how is this happening?
Yeah, man.
That HD Rumble is ridiculous.
It is, dude. Especially the way it was making that one like little cardboard bug thing move. I'm like, yo, I remember going to what's the place in St. Louis called? It's like the St. Louis. Is it Space Museum or Science Museum? It's one of those, and they had like little plastic things like that you could play with in like an arena thing, and you could like fight each other and stuff like that. And as soon as I saw that, I'm like, dude, this is going to be huge for schools. And we were talking to, I was talking to one of our dear listeners, Wesley Ray, who's actually a school teacher, and he was like, this would be perfect for my classroom. And I'm like, dude, there you go. It may not be for me. This is going to be huge in schools, though, especially if they're teaching robotics or anything like that. Bro, are you kidding me? Like,
yep. It's really neat, but we'll just see.
We'll see.
Time will tell.
Time will tell, indeed.
And we'll see. We've got a couple other things in our news that we'll discuss. That's like,
sure.
All right, time will tell, Nintendo, on how well this goes.
Yep. But hey, we just knocked a news thing out, so we don't have to talk about it later. There we go. That's how we do, taking things out early. I don't have a good segue for this, but hey, dear listeners, so we have, over the past really couple months, probably past year, we've been asked a lot on how you guys and gals can support the show in some way. Sure, you're okay with subscribing to the podcast, but some of you reached out like, how can we financially support you? And I joke and be like, well, you can buy me some Taco Bell, you can buy me a new video. No, I'm kidding. But all that to say, all joking aside, we are now live on patreon.com/the-reformed-gamers. Holla. And what's great is I don't know what I was going to say. I lost my train of thought.
We're already funded to some degree?
We are. I'll say that. So we launched it live today. There's early access, dear patrons that have actually gotten this episode early in the uncut raw version. And those of you that are listening to it now, just to kind of catch you guys up to speed, we launched it last Thursday, February 1st, at the beginning of the month. And the cool thing is we set a couple goals up, like, we set it up at this goal to say, hey, we're funded every month. And then we got a few others on there. You can go to the Patreon page and check it out. But dude, within one day, we got funded. So this show is going to keep on rolling every month, thanks to you, the dear listener, the dear patrons now, which is fantastic. I can't thank you guys enough. I honestly didn't think we would get a single dollar in the first month, but no, that people proved me wrong.
Yeah, and I mean, there's still a lot of things that we would hope to keep doing in the future. So don't hear us saying like, "Hey, I was going to support, but if you guys are good," like there's more that can be done, and we've hit the minimum level, and so the podcast at least isn't going anywhere. But some little additional things that we're hoping to do, and again, giveaways, equipment upgrade, like. Oh, yeah. We're excited that, just the support that we've already got. And we know it's only been a day, I think, once this episode comes out, and because not everyone's in the Facebook group even, or checking it often. So some of the dear listeners, when they hear this, be like, oh snap, it's on Patreon. So they'll go on there and throw either $1 our way or $5 or whatever. And so even if you don't plan on, say there's going to be some people are like, well, there's the $10, the $15, like I'm never going to play with you guys, but you want to give, you can still do that. You're not like locked in, but we're just trying to be creative and, how can we kind of do a little bit extra for those who want to give a little bit extra. And but the podcast, it's not going to be behind any paywall. Do you want to explain the levels, Logan?
Yeah, I'll explain the levels. And kind of to add more to kind of what you just said is that the show itself, what you're listening to now, what you've been listening to for the past 3 years, or maybe shorter, depending on what time you jumped on the show, that won't be locked behind a paywall. You're still going to get the Reformed Gamers, even if you don't support on Patreon. So don't feel like you have to give on Patreon. That's just there if you want to support us financially and help us grow a little bit and do some extra things. And some of those ways, I mean, we have the different reward tiers. If you're new to Patreon, there's reward tiers where if you support at this amount, you get these extras. If you support at this amount, you get those other extras and then this other extra. So I'll explain it real quick. So we have a lot of different ways, or some different tiers. We have, if you support us at $1 a month, you get access to the patron-only feed on patreon.com. And what we're going to do there is give you kind of private updates for the episode. So we might post something about the next episode that we're doing and maybe what we're going to talk about and share some articles and kind of get a discussion going there and kind of get you a little more involved that way. And then at the $1 tier, you get early access to our episodes, and I'm not even going to edit them. I might put the theme song in there, and that is it. Everything else is going to be completely uncut, unedited. So you get to hear all of our screw ups, you get to hear all of our mess ups, you get to hear some of
Adam's
our
Wi-Fi disconnecting.
You get to hear Adam's Wi-Fi disconnect. You're going to hear everything, and it's going to be fantastic and hilarious.
Excruciating, maybe. You may want to just stick with the normal podcast.
People are going to drop off the Patreon as soon as they hear the uncut.
I'm just going to go down to the $1 and keep it at the $1 and or not even do it because the unedited stuff. Yeah, sometimes it's interesting, but sometimes it's just garbage.
Yeah, man. I don't know. They might just keep supporting at the $1 to help us get better internet or do something with it.
They can give us more money to be like, you guys got to fix this,
like,
man.
What are you guys doing?
Are a hot mess. Mike, I'm gonna give you more.
How much time does Logan spend editing on Sunday afternoon? Anyway, and then if you support us at the $5 tier, you get everything from the $1 tier, and you also get access to TRG Loot Box, which is kind of like a little sideshow, not like a freak show kind of thing, but like it's a supplemental show that'll focus on a specific topic once a month. It'll range between probably 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes if we're stretching it. But you'll get access to that. So there's just like a little extra show, a little extra goody. By the way, we're not going the route of EA. I mean, loot box is going to be cosmetic. I don't know where I'm going with that. Anyway, so then if you support at the $10 tier, you get everything from the other two tiers. And then you also get access to the TRG Patreon Discord, where you actually get to interact with us in a more director kind of way. Like you get to kind of help shape the show a little bit and give us feedback, give suggestions for topics. We'll put polls up there from time to time. And even on Patreon, we'll do that too. We'll put polls up of like what you guys want to hear from us, what things you want us to see, talk about, and things of that nature. So that's at the $10 tier. And then at the $15 tier, so you get everything from all the other ones. And then you also get access to exclusive game nights with us, which I think we're going to try and do once a month start now, or was it twice a month?
We'll probably do the
Patreon.
Yeah, we'll start at one, and then again we may try to add. We hopefully will add.
Yeah. So that's basically the kind of stipulations with that, though, is that if you're going to subscribe there, you need to have both a Nintendo Switch or a PS4. Did I say both? You need to have one or the other because we're going to play games on those, and we kind of both have to have the games. And hopefully at some
and
point,
sometimes we'll do like Jackbox,
exactly,
because you don't even have to have a system. One of us could stream a Jackbox party pack, and guys can log in with their phones from anywhere in the world. And so I've seen that happen, and those are a lot of fun. So that's one of them that I'm really interested in.
Dang, Adam, I didn't know you could do that. Well, there you go, dear listeners. There's the $15 tier. And then this one, the $25 tier is our most expensive tier. You get everything from all the other tiers. So you get early access to uncut episodes, TRG loot box, TRG Patreon Discord, access to exclusive game nights. And then, but the kind of special coup de grace of the $25 tier is you get to be a producer. And what that means is you get a shout out every episode. We'll probably spend a minute talking about you, how awesome you are, how amazing you are, how thankful we are that you are producing the show. And you get to be called the producer basically for every episode as long as you play.
And I mean, you get all the other tiers.
Yeah.
If you're a producer, realistically, you're probably getting on the show once, if not twice a year. Yeah. Not a guarantee, but we're going to definitely want to honor you for your commitment to the show. So we're going to do as much as we can in that arena.
So there you go, dear listeners. That is the reward tiers for TRG Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/thereformedgamers. You'll see a link to it in your show notes on your podcast app, as well as the website, YouTube, everywhere else. So if you would like to support us, that's where you can go to do it and show your support for the show financially. But again, if you don't have the money, or if you can't support financially, again, don't feel obligated that you have to. Okay. If you want to, though, if you have a little bit of extra side money, you're like, I kind of want to support these guys. These guys are great. That's how you can do it. It's completely up to you. Again, don't feel obligated that you have to. It's there if you want to support us.
If you want to let this is one way to let our wives know that we're not just sitting here talking to each other all the time.
I mean, we kind of are sitting here talking to each other all the time.
And that there's actually people that care and, support it. Those things are always helpful. Yeah. They go a long ways because we know our Facebook group and that people are encouraging. But sometimes our wives just say, are you guys just looking for an excuse to hang out with each other?
It's like, are you guys just trying to get away from us? Is that what it is? You're tired of us, and so you're trying to go off into your little offices and hide.
Oh, that's funny.
Which, I mean, might be true some nights. I mean, you didn't hear that here, but I will deny that to the grave. Anyway, Adam, let's just go ahead and start the show. Hello and welcome to the Reformed Gamers. We like to start the show like we always do, with a little bit of what we've been playing and what we've been reading. And Adam, you handsome man, you handsome baby daddy man, talk about what you've been playing, so that way we can prove to our wives that we're not just sitting here hiding from them.
Yeah. I've been playing. Yeah, I'm still figuring out the balance. It's no, I said this last episode, it is harder to find a proper balance. My wife, Hannah, has gone back to cutting hair throughout the day. So she cuts hair Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from like 2 to 5. Okay. So that's a gap where it's me and baby Ren. We're hanging out. Sometimes she wants all my attention, but a lot of times she just wants to lay on my chest, which, by the way, is like one of the best things ever. I bet. Is to have a little baby just like passed out on your chest. Like, I love it. It's such a special. I love those. I love those moments. I really do. And so it's something just looking forward to. But anyways, there's a lot of times in those afternoons, that's Ren time. Sometimes I might walk around the hall, but with everyone sick, I haven't been doing that. So that's been kind of my main gaming time. And so I wanted to be done with it by tonight, but I'm not quite finished. I'm on the last level, but I've almost finished Wolfenstein 2. And it's good. I mean, I don't know. I think the story hasn't been as good as the first one.
I've heard a lot.
The antagonist isn't quite as good. They get a little weird towards the end of the story, and I'm just like, okay. I mean, we've got all these other things going on, so why not let's get a little crazy. So the story hasn't been as good as the first one, but the gunplay, the gameplay, still great as good. I mean, there aren't many games that look as good as Wolfenstein 2. Like Hannah, when I was playing it, she's like, that looks really good. I'm like, seriously? Like, right? Now, they don't have like the vistas of a Witcher and things like that, but the cutscenes, man, they are top of the top class. So almost finished with that. I'll probably finish that definitely by the time we record next time. Still playing some Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I hit a really difficult boss at the end of chapter 5 that was kicking my butt, which shouldn't be happening because I'm like, I think the level of the boss was like 36 and I'm like 43 with a couple like level 50 characters in my party.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
like, I'm like, how am I not beating this thing?
Yeah.
And so there's some strategy things that I was missing. So I looked up some help, you still have to get in there and do it. It's not like in Persona where they'll give you like all the weaknesses and stuff. You kind of got to still know what you're doing. So I finally beat 2 of the 3 major bosses at the end of this chapter, and I've got one more I need to finish up with.
I'm so glad I gave up on that game. That sounds odd.
It's like,
doesn't sound
and there's
fun,
some
man.
of the other side missions, man. There's a side mission I'm on right now. I'm like, seriously, there's 3 characters that I'm fighting, and they're all like level 34, and they just wreck me. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And so that'll probably be another one. I'm like, there's probably just some strategy thing that I'm missing that I'm, because I don't read all the cutscenes necessarily. I just sometimes I just click through them just to get the side mission going.
Yeah.
So there's probably some hint there. And they're like, do this with this character and you'll win. And I just ignored it. So a lot of times it's on me.
All you had to do was press Y or something and you could have just beaten them in one hit and you never knew.
Seriously, it's, and as a result, they're beating me with one hit because it's crazy. But I enjoy the game still. I really am. It's definitely not perfect, but I'm glad I'm still playing it. Mm-hmm. And then I'm still sipping on that Fortnite. I haven't got to play it as much this last week, but it's just an easy connector for me with other guys in my dorm, so I never play it by myself. So again, I can kind of consider that work, which is great. So I actually got even a guy in the dorm. He's not using his Xbox One. He left it at home because he's like, I just get distracted. But he was supposed to bring it back this last weekend and he forgot. But he's going to bring it on campus next time he goes home. And he's going to let me borrow it so I can.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to use it. I'm going to use it as a way to connect with some students who, a lot of guys have PS4, but I'd probably say more have Xbox Ones. So I'm going to play some Fortnite with them. Right. I'm like, you guys suck, but no. I'm going to probably pick up PUBG and try that out and try to, see what it's all about.
Yeah, man.
And just play Fortnite with some other guys. So it's an easy excuse. I can literally justify playing video games and call it work when I play Fortnite. So,
sure, yeah.
And I enjoy the game. I'm not great at it, but I enjoy it. So that's been a majority of my. Oh snap! I forgot about this. 2 other quick things. Played some of the Play League games. I played Knowledge is Power. I don't know. Are you familiar with these?
Sorry, what? What'd you say you played? The Playlink games?
Playlink. I'm sorry, I mumble sometimes when I get excited.
No, I thought I was hearing things like because I'm so old and decrepit now.
It's like they're like the Jackbox games to a degree where you use your phones.
Okay.
So they're like made by like PlayStation or I think they're made by PlayStation. But
okay, I know what you're talking about now.
Hidden Agenda is one of them.
Yeah.
Knowledge is Power, and That's You was given out for free. But Knowledge and Power is a really fun game. So. Definitely worth checking out if any of you are like interested in Jackbox games. The other game, Hidden Agenda, is really good. You're like it's like a create your own suspense thriller. You're kind of deciding how cutscenes act out. There's ripple effects. There's butterfly effects. The storyline can change like 30 different ways. I played it with some friends. There's a lot of swearing. So be aware of that. You probably won't want to play with your youth group because there's a lot of swearing. But it was really fun. I played with people who are not video game people, and they loved it. Like we're all arguing with each other on what decisions to make because it's kind of like majority rule, and we screwed it up. Like we're a cop, and we laugh because we're a cop, and we got ourselves put in jail. Because we were so bad at making decisions. So I'm like, we got to play this a couple more times and get some of the different endings because I am not satisfied with the ending that we just had. But definitely some fun games worth checking out. Hidden Agenda, Knowledge is Power, definitely a lot more chill. Some good games there. So forgot about those.
Dang, dude. All right. Adam's going ham with some games, y'all.
Well, those are like different. Those are like party games, so they're good. They're just different.
They kind of don't really count. I got you. I hear you. Well, as far as what I've been playing, then let's talk about some Dark Souls 2. Okay. This game, dude, I tell you what, it's so good. It hurts. The game beats me up sometimes, but man, it's so good. I'm loving it, dude. I'm loving every minute of it. You know, it's funny how you sit there and you say that you don't like Dark Souls, you don't want to play those games, you know, after Bloodborne you're done, yet you're sitting there playing Xenoblade where the bosses who are lower level than you are just working you over and over and over. You're like, hey, I'm not going to play Dark Souls.
That's, again, I'm not good. It's about getting good. I'm not good at Dark Souls, and I don't think I'm good at Xenoblade either. It's a common theme, and it's I'm not good at video games.
I see how it is. But no, I think the game is fantastic. I'm really enjoying it. There's a lot of things that I'm trying to just kind of get immersed into that world and figure out kind of what the story is. You know, I've had a lot of people tell me that you have to read item descriptions, kind of talk to the NPCs and put it all together, but I'm still not really understanding what exactly is going on in this world. So thankfully, some of the dear listeners in the Facebook group pointed me to this YouTube channel. I think is, how do you pronounce it? It's like Vati Vidya or something like that. He does a lot of like lore videos for Dark Souls and Bloodborne. I'm like, okay, this helps. Can Bandai Namco hire this guy, or sorry, From Software, hire this guy, put him in the game, like have him make content for the game so I kind of know what's going on a little bit. But that being said, though, it hasn't really hurt my experience. I'm still enjoying it. There's just this level of satisfaction with the game, dude, where you watch the enemies, you see how they move, and you notice little exploits, and then you use those, and you just destroy enemies. It doesn't make the game like insanely easy once you get outside of the first area. Or no, I guess that's the second area, whatever. But it's a blast, man. One of the friends of the show, host of the So Talk to Me podcast, Josh Broccolo, he's actually playing it right now too. And so we had a chance to kind of gush about the game a little bit and talk about some of the different ways that we approached enemies and some of the items that he found that I didn't find. So now I got to go back and try and find those items because apparently they make the game a little bit easier, which, you know, hey, I'll take any help I can get. But it's fantastic, man. Enjoying it.
Yeah, I was so kind of disappointed because there was that leak of potential games
for PS
or whatever,
Plus.
And it was like Dark Souls 2 and Far Cry 4, which would have been a ridiculous month, so it makes sense that it wasn't real.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll get this game and can play it and blah, 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 but it didn't work out that way.
Such a bummer. But instead, we got the masterpiece, which is Knack. Game of the year. Fantastic. Anyway, but also, how do I want to do this? Okay. I'll save Monster Hunter for last. So I'll talk about this one real quick because another friend of the show, Jonathan Steele, you guys have heard him. We've had him on before. And anyway, he texted me out of the blue one day. He's like, dude, you need to try out this game called Celeste. It just came out. It is fantastic. And I'm like, I've never even heard of this game. I'm not going to play it. But he just kept telling me more and more about it. And I'm like, all right, I'll look it up. And the game is getting like 9s, 10s all across the board.
I saw it on IGN. I was like, what?
Dude. So I was like, okay, what am I missing here? I've got $16 on my GameStop gift card left. I'm going to use that. I'll pick the game up and play it. Dude, holy crap. This game. So if you ever played Super Meat Boy, it's kind of like that, but way less punishing. One of the things I love about the game, and apparently the game deals with, it has themes of depression, anxiety, and stuff of that in the game, and I'm slowly unraveling that, which has been very interesting. But you play the game kind of like a platformer. It's fast paced. You got to be quick. You got to be precise in some areas. But it never feels unfair. And the cool thing is that when you die in the game, it just automatically restarts you back at the starting point of the room. So it never gives you a moment to just sit there at a loading screen and just be frustrated and beat yourself up. But even if you're at a loading screen, it gives you these little motivational cue cards. Like there was one I got today that said, what was it? Because the game keeps track of how many times you die in the game. It says, be proud of your death score because with every death means you get better and you learn more and you grow more. And I'm like, okay, I'll keep playing then. And I'm like, dude, Super Meat Boy never did that. Super Meat Boy would just show you how many times you died, where you died on the map, and it would just totally bludgeon you over the head with that. Whereas this one, it does a really good job of encouraging you. And man, the controls are tight. It's just, the music is fantastic. I've been listening to the soundtrack all week. It's an insanely good game out of left field, dude. And I'll say this right now, I will be shocked if this game isn't at least in the talks for Game of the Year. I think it's that good. So
it's on my GG app for one to play.
Oh snap!
You know, I want to finish up Xenoblade, of course, but next up on Nintendo, you know, I've got Stardew Valley. But I mean, I could probably mix up like this, you know, that game in Stardew Valley. You know, with the PlayStation Plus, we'll talk about this later with Ream. There's some cheap, quicker games that I kind of want to get into, but with all I've read about Celeste, it sounds difficult, no doubt. But how do you not try it out? You know, it's like, how do I sit here and hear all these things? You know, it may not be right now. You know, I may have to, you know, delay that gratification and wait. But how do we not, as video game podcast hosts? Yeah, man. I've got to find the time to dabble in.
I was not expecting it to be as good as it is. So it's crazy to me that in 2018 we get a game like this out of the gate. It's just this early, I should say. Fantastic. But the game that I've been playing the most is Monster Hunter World. And dude, I'm telling you, you got to get in on this because it is a ton of fun. But I will say this, and dear listeners, hear me on this. It's going to be a time sink. So, I mean, if you pick this game up, just don't plan on buying games for the next, like, probably 3 months.
You know me. You know me, and you know this game ain't for me.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not for me. It's just, I mean, not that it's a lot of people. It's just not for me.
You see, that's what my old youth pastor said, and then he picked it up, and he was like, I love this game. It's fantastic. This is one of my favorite games of the year. And I'm like, it's only been 2 weeks into 2018.
I've tried the 3DS ones. I know it's different and a lot of different things about it with at least the visual upgrades, but the combat is, I tried for a hot minute and I'm like, this is not for me.
That's right. I remember playing with you a couple times. Okay, yeah, that's right.
The combat's just too, and I'm going to describe it this way. Many people will probably disagree. It's just too clunky. You know, it takes my character forever to swing its weapon. Yeah. It takes it forever to do this. I get knocked down. It takes my character forever to get up. I'm just like, this isn't Dark Souls. It's trying to be, but
that's part of the strategy, though. And plus, each weapon in the game, there's like, I think 14 different weapons. So there's like 14 different playstyles. Each one has its own flaws, but it also has its own highlights. And dude, it just the weapon that I'm using, for the dear listeners that are curious that are also playing the game, I'm using the Charge Blade, and basically what it is, it's a sword and shield that turns into a giant battle axe. And so when you're in the sword and shield, have you seen it?
I think I watched you.
Oh, okay, that's right, because I streamed it over on twitch.tv/TRG podcast. Follow us. You know, you can move very quick, and you can use your shield to block attacks, which that shield is just OP as all get out. But if the enemy's stunned, you can do some major damage by switching over to the battle axe and just wrecking shop with the monsters. But each weapon plays differently, and some weapons are really slow, but they hit really hard, and other ones are quick, but they don't do quite as much damage until you get up to the higher tier weapons. But dude, it's just in 2018, out of the gate, dude, we have a game with no loot boxes, no in-app purchases, plenty of content to play. Capcom's already said, hey, we're going to give you Ryu and Sakura from Street Fighter to play as. We're going to give you Mega Man armor for your Palico. Oh, all this is for free. This early in 2018, I'm sorry, but dude, Capcom is killing it right now with Monster Hunter World. And I don't know, dude. I'm just saying, dear listeners, Redbox the game. If you're curious, Redbox it. See what you think. Yeah. Now, I will fully admit this. The game is not for everyone, because that learning curve, it is better than past games, but it's still kind of steep. But hey, the cool thing is, I mean, hit me up on PlayStation. I'll try to help you out. We'll get you in on a squad. We'll try and teach you the ropes a little bit. And even after the end of that, you feel it's just not the game for you, that's okay. But man, I think this one is perfect for newcomers to the series. I've already got a handful of friends who have never played a Monster Hunter game in their life. They're hooked on it, and they're like, this game, dude, is amazing.
A hard thing for me is, like it seems like I know there's different dinosaurs, there's different objectives and some of those things, but for me it's just like a loot grind. Like you want to get better shields, you want to upgrade your weapons, and I know they added somewhat of a story this year, but it's still basically go hunt these dinosaurs. And I get that there's a challenge to that, and there's a lot of games where you play them for just gameplay and not for story. But so for me it was just really hard. I'm like, and again, we've talked about this on the podcast before, where I just don't care very much about those peripheral things of gear and loot. And I get when they may play a major part of the game like they do in Monster Hunter, but I'm just one of those people, like when I tried it on the 3DS, I've watched some people play it, and I'm like, yeah, there's a part of me that wishes I liked this, but it like it's such a time sink. It grabs, and you like, and it's a game where it's not required, but it's only going to make the game 10 times more fun if you play with other people. And I just don't, I don't play a ton with other people unless it's Fortnite and guys that are living in my dorm. And so I could probably find people. It's just, in the end, it's just one of those games where like I'm glad other people enjoy it, and I like to kind of ruffle some feathers and kind of give some different people a hard time about it. But in the end, it's just not for me. And so I'm okay with that. There's a lot of other games I can play, and there's a lot of games I like that are not for other people. So
yeah, fair enough.
Notch up to that.
True that. But anyway, dear listeners, you will be hearing me gush about this game for the next several episodes because it's just a beefy game. So I will end the discussion there for now. Until next episode. So Adam, good sir, what have you been reading, man?
Been doing a little bit of reading, nothing too crazy. I finished True Spirituality by Francis Schaeffer. It kind of looks at, okay, we have all these truths, but how do we really live moment by moment in the Lord and in Christ? And just a couple things that were really good. I think I talked about it some last time we recorded the podcast. It's a good book. I'd recommend it. I'm not going to recommend it later, but Schaeffer's kind of one of those well-known authors that a lot of people have read. It's the first I've read it, and it was good. And so nothing kind of life-altering, but just a real solid, gospel-centered. It was a helpful book. It looked at some different things in regard to the reality of humanity and Christ, and like when we talk about a relationship with Christ, it isn't some metaphysical relationship where it's like, ooh, like lofty. It's like, no, we have a legit relationship because Christ was a legit person who legit died on the cross as a real person who legit went into heaven. And sometimes we just think about all these things of like, oh, there's just some story. Like, no, these things really happened, and because they really happened, this, and this are the results of that. So it was a solid book. I started to read the Screw Tape Letters. Have you ever read that by C.S. Lewis?
I have it. I bought it with a box set for my wife for one Christmas, but I haven't gotten around to reading it just yet. It's on my list for this year, though.
It's one of those books where it's like, if I didn't know something about it, I would have been lost as I'll get out when it starts, because it just kind of jumps right in. It's like one devil talking to another devil or something like that. So I'm glad I had a little background. I'm like, I need to do a little bit more research on this stuff before I just jump into it. But I only read probably 10 pages. I decided, it's Black History Month coming up. I've got a lot of books on my reading list that deal with that are written by either African American theologians or on race topics. I'm like, I'm gonna set that aside. I'll get to it at some point this year, but I'm gonna read some of my different books. So I haven't decided if I'm gonna read a book called Race and Place or Steal Away Home, the book about Spurgeon and a slave in America. So I've got some different books. I'm kind of discerning which one do I want to read. So I don't have a ton to talk about with what I've been reading, but that's kind of where I'm at. So by the time, I'm sure next time we record, I'll have more to speak about. Hopefully I'll be able to get through a couple books this month.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, that's mainly what I'm reading.
Cool beans. Well, dear listeners, last episode I talked about, I think I brought it up. If I didn't, I'm bringing it up now. But I was reading this book called Redeeming the Feminine Soul by Julie Royce. I remember talking about it last episode now because I was like, she follows me on Twitter, and I'm afraid to say anything bad because I'm afraid she's going to unfollow me or block me. But anyway, so I finished the book, and oh boy. So here's my problem with books that say things like, well, this is God's vision for something. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm expecting to read your book, get into God's word, kind of see how you're drawing your conclusions from scripture and maybe some external sources and things like that. The thing that frustrated me by the end of this book is that I could not tell you what the Bible says about feminism or God's ideal for femininity. I could tell you what the Pope thinks. I could tell you what some research says. I could tell you what Julie Royce thinks. But I couldn't tell you what scripture says because she didn't bring it up a whole lot. And so I'm like, this is frustrating because some of the stuff that you're saying makes sense and it sounds great. But at the same time, though, can we get some scripture in here to back this stuff up? And I'm not saying like the book is complete garbage. I think I gave it 2 stars on Goodreads, which means I just didn't really like it. Which, I mean, I didn't hate it. If I hated it, I would have given it 1 star and not have finished the book at all. But I gave it 2 stars because I'm just like, by the time I finished the book, I'm like, I didn't really like what I read. And there was a couple parts where, especially in the first half of the book, it was hard to really figure out what Julie was getting at. There was points where she was saying how she used to be egalitarian, but she never really stated kind of where she's at now. She's talked a little bit about going away from egalitarianism and looking at complementarianism, but she never really gave an answer of kind of where she's at now or what she thinks or how scripture has influenced it at all. And I honestly felt like in a lot of ways she misrepresented complementarianism, which is the belief of, God created men and women equal in worth, but with different roles or different abilities to cater to different roles that complement each other. We need each other to kind of balance each other out, and that's how it works. But some of the evidence she gave that painted complementarianism in a bad light was kind of anecdotal in the sense that this is true that some idiot used complementarianism to abuse his wife, but that doesn't mean that's what complementarianism is. I understand that complementarianism isn't. There's some people who just don't like it, and there are some people who don't like egalitarianism. I get that. And then there's some people who are in the middle that are still trying to figure out what the words I'm saying even mean. But the thing is that this book could have been really, really good. But instead, it was just, I don't know. Like I said, by the time I finished it, I was just confused. I didn't really understand where she was at. Some of the stuff she said was really good. Other stuff was just not as good. At the end of the day, I'm like, I think Mingling of Souls by Matt Chandler, and did Mark Dever co-write that? Well, Matt Chandler's on the thing. I can't remember.
I don't think so. I think it's just Chandler.
But I just thought that was a better book because they used a lot. I mean, they walked through Song of Songs to talk about, this is how a man should be. And then they shared some evidence in their own life. They didn't spend a whole lot of time talking about themselves, but enough to give you an idea of kind of where they're coming from. And it was just written better, and I think the problem is that I guess this isn't so much a problem, it's just where Julie comes from, is that she is a journalist, kind of an investigative reporter, and so it reads very much like, I don't want to say a blog, but like a news article, and which isn't bad, but I don't know. Again, I would have loved to have seen more scripture in there to see how you're grounding this in the word, because if you say that the word of God has high authority in your life, I'd like to know how you're using it to form your opinions and your thoughts. So unfortunately that didn't happen. However, though, once I finished that book, I've just gone down the feminism rabbit trail. So now I'm reading a book called what is it? Andreas Kostenberger compiled it. It's like Women in the Church, an explanation of 1 Timothy 2. I'm probably butchering the title, but I started reading that. It's a beefy book. And so I'm just going down that rabbit trail. And I've got a book by Jen Wilkins queued up after that. So I've gone down the rabbit trail, dude. That's where I'm going down. And it's been a frustrating journey so far, but it's been kind of good because it's kind of pushing me a little bit. But at the same time, it's like, come on, give me some scripture. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Give me some foundation. Give me some 2x4s or something. Let me know how you're building this. Anyway, there you go. I don't mean any ill will or anything like that towards Julie. Words are hard. I don't mean anything bad against Julia, and I don't want her to take any offense to this if she somehow listens to this episode. But it's just, I don't know. Maybe we can get her on the show to talk about it in a loot box or something. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, Adam, man, we are like going on time long, words hard. So
we talked really long before we actually even got the podcast thing, so that's kind of the hardest part about it.
Oh man. Anyway, well, let's just jump into the news, man. Is there anything worth talking about? Anything fancy? Anything?
Yeah, we got a couple things. We don't have to go super long in all of these, but we'll try to get through them relatively quick. So this week there's been the week of our recording, there's been a decent amount of Nintendo news. We talked earlier about the Labo stuff, but it would have been yesterday, 2 days ago of our recording. Nintendo announced that they're going to be coming out with a Mario Kart on a mobile app. I don't know if you've seen this. So now they didn't give any details, Rudy. It just said Mario Kart Tour. They said the game is currently in development, and it must be pretty early in development. It's not going to be released until sometime next fiscal year, which runs from April 2018 until March 2019. And I'm going to guess it's going to be more towards March 2019 than April 2018. Yeah. So there's a lot more details. I mean, there wasn't a screenshot. There wasn't anything. So what do you think about this? I mean, I got my opinions. I think it's a pretty great idea. It's about time. They could have made so much money on mobile apps if they would have went that direction a long time ago. But what do you think about a mobile Mario?
I don't really know a whole lot about it. I was following Nintendo dads on Twitter, and they were talking about how it's not going to be like the typical kind of game. It's going to, from the sounds of things, it's supposed to be some kind of like a system, I guess, or like a network that they put in other games. I'll have to go back and reread the tweet by Nintendo dads, which, by the way, just a quick plug for them. Fantastic stuff what they're doing over there. Nintendo dads, awesome stuff. So anytime you can give me a Nintendo game on my phone, I'll try it out. I'll play it. Hopefully I'll enjoy it and stick with it. But I'm not going to be like, oh, that's stupid. I think it's cool, Mario
I'm one of those guys that spend $10 on the Mario Run app. And I mean, I played all the levels and I enjoyed it. Did I get my $10 worth? I mean, I don't know. It's up for debate. I haven't gone back to it. But once I kind of beat all the levels, I didn't go and get all the collectibles because at this point, I'm playing my Switch. I'm playing my Vita if I'm on the go. Yeah. I don't really. I'm admitting the Facebook group if I'm on my phone. I don't really play a ton of mobile games anymore.
That's a game in and of itself.
Oh man, sometimes the hardest game that I've played is admitting that Facebook group.
Yeah, harder than Dark Souls.
But I think I'm hopeful. You never know what you're going to get. I mean, look at Pocket Camp for
Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing. Could have been. I know a lot of people enjoy it. Could have been a lot more, but they limited it. So we'll see what happens. But I think there's a ton of potential there. It's just a matter of time will tell. Yeah. Next up, Nintendo officially partnering with Illumination on a Mario movie. So Nintendo has announced that it's partnering with Illumination. They made like Sing. They made, what are some of the other Illumination? Despicable Me. They were also Illumination. So they're making a Mario movie. It's going to Miyamoto and Chris Meledandri. They'll co-produce the film, so it'll have definitely that Mario feel because of Miyamoto, but the Illumination founder and CEO is the other guy, and they're going to be kind of partnering. So we'll see. I've heard some different things. Mario has had a story, kind of not had a story. It's always been Save the Princess for the most part. it'll just be interesting. We haven't had a Mario adaptation in a really, really, really long time
for a reason.
And there's kind of yeah, exactly for a reason. But I mean, I've enjoyed a lot of the Illumination movies. You know, I enjoyed seeing, but it's not a action cartoon. It's about I like it because of the soundtrack. So I don't know, Logan. What do you think?
I mean, as soon as you mentioned Despicable Me, I'm like, all right, I'm interested. I love Despicable Me, dude. Those movies are funny. The second one was good. I like that one. It's the third one I haven't seen yet. Yeah, dude. It's one of those things where like this could be really, really terrible, or it could be really, really good. Hopefully, it's not the thing where it's like the other Mario movie where it's so bad it's good. Hopefully, it's actually like a decent movie. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. They didn't release a trailer or anything, did they?
No. This is all these things that we're kind of talking about, except for this next one, are kind of really early. They're just kind of like, hey, these things are happening. Mm-hmm. Be aware. This one, as we get closer and closer and closer to it, it's just going to be a matter of what direction they go in. Are they going to kind of create a whole new story, or do they kind of keep the stereotypical Bowser bad guy? You've got Princess. All the different princesses. You do bring Daisy and you bring some of these different ones. So who knows what direction they go in. But again, Miyamoto's involved in it. So I don't know if he's been as involved in the other one. So hopefully that'll keep some authenticity to the game and the genre. But you also got a guy who really knows how to make pretty good animated movies. Mm-hmm. So hopefully that balance will be a good combination.
Yep. We'll see.
I could be hopeful. It doesn't mean anything. No, I mean they got to prove it, but I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
Two other quick ones. Nintendo Switch to launch its online paid service in September of 2018. They don't give any other information other than, hey, we told you back in the day you're gonna have to pay for this. And I was just like, oh, wow, great. You're going to make me pay for your garbage internet, your online services? Like, awesome. But, again, they haven't given us anything yet. So I know they say, like, oh, you're going to get classic games. You'll probably get eShop discounts and stuff like that. But if they don't revamp it in some major way, I mean, you probably have to get to play. I don't play a ton of Nintendo games online anymore. We did Mario Kart and Splatoon and some of those, but they've got to make it better if they expect people to pay for it, because it's been the laughing stock of the video game industry ever since they've tried to do online. Mm-hmm. So hopefully with this paid service, they will have figured out some things, revamped some things, but paying even $20 for what they give us right now is not worth it. I mean, garbage, but
I think here's the thing, man, with the way that Nintendo's been making some insanely good moves recently, I really think they're going to hit it out of the park on this one. What's the word? Reinstilled? Yeah, I think reinstilled's the right word. They've just reinstilled so much confidence in me that they know what they're doing. They are making smart moves. They are back. They're making some bold moves, dude. And I think this online service is going to be something worth paying money for. Now, again, I mean, to your listeners, you can like hold on to this episode and use it as proof later to kind of shame me if I'm wrong, but it could be bad for sure. But just given what Nintendo's been doing these past few months since the Switch has come out, it's been smart moves, with the exception of that stupid Splatoon 2 setup with how you play against each other. But hopefully this will fix that. Hopefully we'll see an overhaul of that. Maybe a virtual console will come into play. I mean, Nintendo, get on it. Like, for real. If they just release a virtual console, it'd be so much money right then and there. I would drop so much money. I would probably
come back to Splatoon if they fixed matchmaking and the chat.
I think a lot of people would.
But the biggest thing is it was too hard to play with friends and to get in the same party that I enjoyed playing it by myself, but if I could get in a group with people a lot easier and like, hey, let's party up and go play this, like, wow, so much better.
Though I will say though that getting paired up with the randoms I normally hate in the game and playing online games, but the people playing Splatoon 2, dude, Yo, there were some close matches. I tell you what, man. Good stuff. Fun stuff. Anyway, Nintendo, come on, let's go. Keep it going.
Just in some other news, we've got a release date for a game that a lot of people are wanting. It's technically being called a delay, but Red Dead Redemption 2 has got a release date of October 26th. It says a little extra time for polish. So
that delay quip you had, I thought you were talking about Anthem for a second, and how the CEO of EA was like, "It's not a delay, even though we're delaying the game." I'm like, what? Anyway, sorry. Red Dead Redemption.
Red Dead, October 26th. I'm fine with it. Anytime, make it great. Yeah. And give me more time to play other games that I already own. I'm feeling good about my backlog, but I can always feel better.
That's exactly it. When I saw what the release date was when you texted me earlier, I'm like, thank goodness, because I could not have played this game in the spring. There's no way. Because I'm really thinking that, well, I might get to play God of War. I might be done with Monster Hunter by then. But I'm just saying, like, this whole like first couple months of the year, because of Monster Hunter, Celeste, my backlog, I've got like 2 Dark Souls games to play through and all the DLC. I'm just glad this game's in October, so that way I can actually pick it up, actually play it, and go from there, because it would not have happened if it would have dropped this spring. Ain't no way.
Yeah, there's a cool little note here. It says, just that I'm referencing the IGN article. It says, an interesting turn. There's a chance that the game will feature an early New Bordeaux, the setting in Mafia 3. Now that's interesting. I enjoyed Mafia 3. It wasn't a perfect game by any means, but the fact that they may kind of incorporate those 2 settings. I'm trying to think. Mafia 3, was that Rockstar?
I have no idea.
I don't think so.
I think Mafia 3
Maybe it was
Rockstar. I'm pretty sure that was someone else.
I don't think so, but that's an interesting little side note there. But yeah, I mean, that game, I have no reason to believe it won't be amazing and great. So it'll be, I don't have a ton of games that are must plays right away. You got Spider-Man, God of War 3 for me, or the new God of War, Red Dead. Those are the only ones where I'm like guaranteed going to probably play right away. I'm really going to try to be good. I'm going to try to hold off for a lot of games until the holiday season. After looking at all these games that went so cheap, I'm like, oh yeah. Man, I have a backlog, and it doesn't mean there's not going to be some games that I get new, but if I can hold off on a decent amount of these games that are like early summer, late spring, and wait till the fall, you're getting them for pennies to the dollar, and so we'll see what happens. Yeah. Anyway. And then let me pull this up for some reason. We've got our free monthly games. I'm just going to go through a quick rundown of these. It's your Microsoft games with Gold and PlayStation 4, or PlayStation Plus free games.
Nope, PlayStation Plus is only supporting PlayStation 4 now. Surprise! They cut off the PS3 and the Vita because the Vita is dead. Whoa. We're not going there. Hey, I'm just saying, man.
Anyways.
I'm just saying.
We got a couple new dear listeners and people in the Facebook group that recently got them, so I'm liking that. And we actually got a couple decent games for the Vita this time. Anyways, for PlayStation Plus free games, you got Ream. That's PlayStation 4. It's kind of like a spiritual successor to a game that's coming out here soon. Shadow of the Colossus, Ico. Got a decent, I think it was like a 6.5 on IGN. Decent rating there.
It was all right.
Did you play it?
I played it on Xbox One for a total of like 2 hours, and because it ran poorly, I stopped playing.
Okay, well, I didn't even know that you had played it. So this will be a game I will try it out. I will play this game.
Yeah, I'll give it another shot.
We also got Knack on PS4.
Game of the year.
So it's a good. I think it's a good co-op game. Correct.
It's a masterpiece, especially for co-op.
So. Who doesn't love the free co-op games that PlayStation Plus gives away? I've played multiple of those with my nephew and some friends and stuff. We'll get Spelunker HD for PS3, Mugen Souls Z for PS3, Exiles N for the Vita, and then a game called Grand Kingdom. It's actually one of the $30 Vita games and got some pretty good reviews across the internet. So I don't know. I was looking at some of the video. I don't know if it'll be a game that I get into. It's got a different type of
the battle style's a little weird, isn't it?
It is. It's a little bit different. So I'm hoping to check it out at some point. But again, retail $30 game. I'm not going to complain about it.
Nah, dude.
On games with gold, you got Shadow Warrior for the Xbox One, Assassin's Creed Chronicles India Xbox One. For the 360, you get Crazy Taxi and Split Second. Splish/second. I don't know how you technically read it. So kind of a weak month for games with gold, if we're being honest.
Crazy Taxi, though, is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, but if you haven't played Crazy Taxi at this point.
Yeah, if you don't play Crazy Taxi, it's kind of a disappointing month.
I mean, even still, like, yeah, I don't.
Although
it's Xbox has had some really good months where PlayStation has sucked, and PlayStation I think this month is just a lot better between Reamnac and even Grand Kingdom.
And it ebbs and flows a lot.
Exactly. We're not saying that this is the case every month, but that's kind of a weak Xbox month. But
I will say though, I saw Major Nelson tweet out that Spec Ops: The Line is coming to Xbox One via backwards compatibility, and I'm like,
nice.
No joke. I might go buy a used Xbox One just so I can play that game, because Eric Bouchard of Everyday Gamers just keeps talking about it and singing of its praises, and I haven't played the game yet, so it ain't gonna happen because my wife ain't gonna let me. But I'm just saying, dear listeners, if you got an Xbox and you haven't played Spec Ops: The Line yet, now's your shot.
Is that only Xbox?
No, it's on PS3 also, but because PlayStation is stingy with their backwards compatibility and they want you to pay for that stupid PlayStation Now service, that's the only place you can really play it. And I'm like, I'm not gonna pay for that dumb subscription because it doesn't even work like when I try to use it. It really never has worked when I try to use it. And that's a whole other rabbit trail. But I'll have to say, if you want to play it on a PlayStation system, you gotta have a PS3 or you gotta have PlayStation Now. So
there you go.
But if you're on Xbox, there you go. Go pick up a used copy. I'm sure it's dirt cheap. Enjoy.
All right. Then just moving on to quickly into new releases, upcoming games, just run through these. On February 1st for the Switch, you've got Night in the Woods. That game's already out on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, I believe. February 1st, you also got SteamWorld Dig for Switch.
Do you really?
Yeah.
I love that game.
PlayStation 4, Xbox One on February 2nd, UFC 3. And then a couple big games coming out next week of this release. Shadow of the Colossus, the remaster on the PS4, that's February 6th.
Nice.
Supposedly it looks and plays amazing. So and there's been a lot of discussion of this game in the Facebook group. If you never got around to playing it, definitely might want to check that out. I did the PS3 version. I enjoyed it, but it definitely felt dated, even the PS3 version.
Yeah.
And then Dragon Quest Builders for the Switch, February 9th.
Still need to play that demo for that. I haven't done that.
Check it out.
Sorry. I'll give it a shot. I'll give it a shot when I'm not playing Monster Hunter, which will probably be in March. I'll play the demo in March.
Yep.
Oh man. Well, cool, dear listeners.
That's a great thing. It has a demo. So if some of you never played up PS4 or any of that, it gives you a chance to really check it out, and it'll give you. I didn't do the demo because I've beat the first 3 of the first 4 storylines, so I know what it's like. But I can't talk this game up enough. I really, really enjoyed it. So
fair enough. Like I said, I'll give it a shot. I'll give her a shot. But anyway, I was gonna say this. Shout out to Nintendo for actually giving us game demos on some things, like being able to play, what was it, Lost Sphere, the demo, and the Project Octopath Traveler, and several other games. I'm like, PlayStation, Xbox, where are you at on this? Get on it,
Give me demo discs.
Yes, bring the demo disc back. Wasn't there a pizza place in the 90s that if you ordered a pizza, they'd give you a demo disc for like Xbox or something?
Man, you would get those things all over the place. Like PlayStation 1, I feel like demo discs were like given away no matter where you went. They're like, oh, you bought a McDonald's Happy Meal? Here's a demo disc. Oh, you bought a pizza? Here's a demo disc. I'm playing Parappa the Rapper all over.
I think I just found the topic for our first loot box. Awesome. Anyway, dear listeners, we're gonna take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're gonna talk about video games, addiction, and the effects of all of that together. Stay tuned.
Have you ever watched a movie or TV show with your friends and noticed all kinds of symbolism, allegory, and Christian themes, only to have your friends shrug it off?
Well, maybe you need some new friends, but more likely, you need popcorn theology. I'm Richard.
And I'm David, and we're the hosts of Popcorn Theology, a podcast for movie lovers and theology nerds.
Each week, we dive into a different movie, TV show, or other topic and explore them from a biblical worldview.
Check us out on iTunes or your favorite podcast catcher, or at popcorntheology.com.
And remember, you are not a mindless consumer.
Welcome back, dear listeners. So for the topic of the show, if you couldn't tell by the title of the episode, we're going to be talking about gaming addiction, specifically because an article came out recently in the UK saying that gaming disorder is soon to be classified as a mental health condition for the very first time in history. The International Classification of Diseases is a, diagnostic manual that's published by the World Health Organization. And the last time it was updated was 27 years ago in 1990. And so it's being updated to add this in. And we'll have links to this in the show notes, or if you support us on Patreon, you already got the episode a little bit earlier, or you got the link a little bit earlier. So this is going to be published in 2018, which is going to include gaming disorder as a serious health condition to be monitored. Now, the wording of this disorder hasn't been revealed yet, but the New Scientist reports that the draft outlines the criteria needed to determine whether someone can be classified as having a gaming disorder. Now, Vladimir, I'm sorry if I butcher your last name, man, Pozniak, a member of the WHO's Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse, spoke about the importance of recognizing gaming disorder as an important issue. Health professionals need to recognize that gaming disorder may have serious health consequences, and most people who play video games don't have a disorder, just like most people who drink alcohol don't have a disorder either. Mm-hmm. However, in certain circumstances, overuse can lead to adverse effects. Last year, researchers from the University of Oxford's Internet Institute undertook a study to investigate the percentage of gamers who are addicted to video games. A study found that only 2 to 3% of the 19,000 men and women surveyed from the UK, the US, Canada, and Germany admitted that they experienced 5 or more of the symptoms from the American Psychiatric Association checklist of health systems. Let's see if there's anything else here. Dr. Andrew, I cannot pronounce that last name. Dear listeners, you'll see it in the article. Lead author from the University of Oxford study was discussing their findings, and he had this to say. He said, "To our knowledge, these are the first findings from a large-scale project to produce robust evidence on the potential new problem of internet gaming disorder. Contrary to what was predicted, the study did not find a clear link between potential addiction and negative effects on health. However, more research grounded in open and robust scientific practices is needed to learn if games are truly as addictive as many fear." Let me see here. Mark James, a security specialist at ESET. Thanks for putting that ad in my way, Joanne's Fabrics. Fantastic stuff. Gaming is highly addictive, and it is no wonder so many respondents from our study admit to playing them for so long. So that's different. When I took a counseling class at seminary where we talked about mental health and medicine and things of that nature, this did not come up. We didn't talk about, we talked about addiction a little bit, but not specifically video games. And it's interesting that now studies are being done to see what the effects are and if it's actually a disorder.
Yeah. There's another article we'll have posted that Kotaku posted, I think it was about a week after that one. They have a couple things here. They say some of the classifications they consider it as addictive behavior. The disorder looks like impaired control over gaming, increasing priority given to gaming to the extent that gaming takes precedence over other life interests and daily activities, and continuation or escalation of gaming despite the occurrence of negative consequences. So that's some of the other kind of verbiage associated with what they would consider a gaming disorder.
Yeah. And so this was kind of brought up to us by a couple of you, the dear listeners. And, I know I talk about my own issues with mental health, like anxiety, depression, those kind of things. But I'm going to restate this one more time, is that I'm not an expert on this stuff. I am not a doctor on this. So, take what I have to say with a little bit of grain of salt, and don't quote me on everything. But it's interesting how this is being labeled as a mental health disorder, that if you are addicted to video games to a pretty, I would say, extreme degree, it is now a mental health disorder. And I don't know, to me, from my biblical worldview, when I look at this, I don't necessarily see, like, when I think of a mental health disorder, I think of something that isn't like being addicted to video games. Just like how someone who is addicted to alcohol, I don't necessarily think that that's a mental health disorder. I think it's just addiction, and maybe someone out there can educate me on this, but I think it's more of an addiction issue. And coming at this from a biblical worldview, clearly what I see here is an issue with idolatry. And as we know from scripture, when you look at it, when you worship an idol, you become like that idol. And during that process, it will have adverse effects that, I'll admit, can lead to mental health issues. I want to read this research, because I think they said that it has ties, like one of the effects of this is like anxiety and stuff. And so I'm like, well, there's
a quote that says research they've done in Red suggests that what looks like a gaming disorder a lot of time is a symptom of depression, anxiety, and attention deficit disorder. And so, while the gaming addiction, whether we define it as a disorder, a mental, disorder or not, a lot of times it can become a symptom of other issues. And so, if you're depressed, you're keeping yourself more alone. If you're if you're anxious and have bad anxiety, maybe you're not willing to get out as much because you're so worried or so caught up in those emotions. You're like, I'm just going to sit around. I'm just going to game. And so one way or the other, they kind of feed into each other. Yeah. But it's a matter of, do you choose to define video game addiction in some ways? I guess it's probably more complex than that, because some people play video games because they are addicted to them. Right. Some people play a ton of video games because they're struggling other ways, and it's a way to get away. Yeah. And so they may not necessarily be addicted, but it's just one of those things that they do as a crutch, or and that may not be the right word, but as a way to escape. Yeah. And so it's just, okay, I'm either going to play video games or going to watch a movie, and they enjoy video games more. And so I think some of that is in the terminology of, can it be, is video game addiction real? For sure. And a lot of people have it. Is it considered a mental what do they say? I don't want a mental or a gaming disorder or mental disorder. I don't know. Again, I don't know. I'm not as up to date on how they define all of these. I'm not going to say that it can't be. I'm sure there are some people. I think how you get to the conclusion of if somebody is where, some of the articles kind of hint at that, of like, are we talking about people who are just addicted to games, or it has affected something where they need more help? Because if you're just addicted to games, I think there are some things that you can practically do, even of yourself, to rid yourself of some of that addiction. Mm-hmm. And you wouldn't necessarily have to have outside help. But if we're classifying it as a mental disorder, as a gaming disorder, then some of that is saying, okay, you have got to a degree where you are unable to do this on your own, and you need to get some either medication or some outside help, or maybe counseling. And so I think that's where maybe, and again, this is from my limited understanding, where some of that comes into, okay, depending on how you classify this, there are definitely different steps that need to be taken to help and to get help. Yeah. So,
and that's the thing too, is that this kind of conversation is just, there's so much nuance in it, because there's just so many factors. And I think you said it well with how, it may not necessarily be a disorder in and of itself or a mental health issue in and of itself, but it might be a symptom of another thing that is like depression or anxiety and things like that. And that's the thing about gaming, really, is that we all have different reasons as to why we game. I mean, there might be a person who plays games to feel some kind of control or power over themselves, where, in their workplace, they don't necessarily have that, and they feel less than, or they feel like, what's the word? I guess just like less of a person. And so in a video game, they play it like, oh, I'm powerful, I'm in control, I'm worth something, And then you have another person who plays it just for an escape. Maybe they have a crappy home life, or, just things just aren't going well at work or something. And so they play games to escape, to be in a world where they can just relax and kind of get away. And I think that that's okay to a degree, because we all need a break from stresses of life, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I think that's one of the important reasons as to why, you shouldn't work 7 days out of the week, because if you just go nonstop, you're going to shut down at some point. But the thing that I worry about with this, and again, I'm going to have to read the report because it hasn't been released yet, and so there's just so much that we don't know about it. The thing that I worry about is if we label this as a disorder, then what does that necessarily mean for the gaming community as a whole, Because I'm going to be honest, we as Christians, in the Christian circles that we run in, especially, in churches specifically, depending on where you're at, gaming is either okay, it's tolerated, or it's totally demonized. And if people that demonize games already hear that, gaming can be a disorder or a mental health issue, I can tell you right now, I know a ton of parents that are going to, I don't know a ton of parents personally that will do this, but I know that parents who see this are going to not freak out, but out of fear of this harming their child, they're going to get it out of the house. Or like, oh, here's our reason to get it out of the house. And so at the same time, though, I don't think that, the outrage of parents is going to stop scientists from doing work, or psychiatrists, I should say, to be more specific. And it shouldn't. It shouldn't keep them from doing the work. But at the same time, words are so important, man. Yeah. And we can't just label something a disorder just because someone is addicted to it. Because I think there is a difference and a little bit of nuance between those two words enough to where it's a distinction that we need to be very clear on. But at the same time, and this is just because we're Christians and we're coming from a biblical worldview, we understand the effects of sin, and we understand that a lot of stuff in this world is a gift from God. But at the same time, that gift, while it is good inherently in and of itself, it can be used for bad, and it can be worshiped for idolatry. And I tell my students this all the time. We talk about this with idols, is that what you worship is what you become. And so if you're the person that goes to games because you're looking for some sense of achievement to, justify your existence, that's a games or gosh, words are hard. The video game then just becomes an outlet for what's going on mentally. It becomes a bit of a muse or a bit of a focal point. And a lot of people do this with a lot of different things. There are some people that just throw themselves into their work, and that's what they worship to justify their existence or make themselves feel valuable. Or, you have people that throw themselves into, social media, even the whole chase for likes, dislikes, and all that stuff to kind of quantify and qualify even your existence, and to feel that rush of, oh, people notice me. people are giving me attention. You know, there's a lot of things going on at play that I don't think just labeling gaming itself as a disorder is helpful. Now, again, it depends on how they do the research and how they word it and find their conclusions. But at the same time, I mean, at what point, I guess let me just ask this question. At what point do we address the sin? You know?
Because,
sorry, go ahead.
No, I wanted to bring this up. Just you talking about words, you know, it talks about the WHO's, the health organization definition of gaming disorder could inspire what they call an inaccurate diagnosis when in fact gaming could just be a coping mechanism for something already known. And so that kind of goes back to talking about, okay, first of all, the definition matters, but secondly, kind of what you've been hinting at of, this could be just a symptom of something else that's already at play and maybe something that's already known. And then they, you know, kind of going to what you're talking about, looking at the sin that's involved. You know, there's a couple other quotes that I think kind of play into that. It talks about two of these doctors. They acknowledge that some people overdo gaming at the expense of their health and sanity. I think we need to at least recognize that.
For sure.
Whether you call it a disorder or addiction, there's definitely people that overdo, and they say what's worth focusing on, they say, is less than the gaming aspect of the behavior, but the overdoing of the gaming. And then later, the article goes on to say, they begin talking about ADHD, and so it says, even if gaming disorder isn't the next attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, gamers with problematic
words
habits
are hard.
still problematic. Yeah, they're problematic. Habits still need help. And so that's one of the things where it's like, irregardless of kind of what we call it, we still need to get to the point that there are people who have problematic habits with gaming and they need help. Call it disorder, call it addiction, whatever you want to call it, they need help. And then again, they go on to say, there's no debate that video game addiction destroys lives. But just, you know, and so again, there's no doubt that is true. We just got to determine what we want to call it. Yeah. If we call it disorder, if we call it addiction or mental health issue, irregardless, there are real people that have issues with video games, and we have to admit that as gamers, like, there are definitely people with these issues. Yeah. We need to be strategic in how do we help them? How do we help them? I mean, we don't necessarily do this intentionally, but there's a reason why we talk about games the way we do. The topics we talk about, in regards to marriage, we talk about gaming from a marriage perspective because we need to put them in perspective. We talk about backlogs and finances. We need to talk about good ways of stewarding our money and not just blowing. We talk about how we spend our time. We need to talk about good habits of how to spend your time, not at the sake of responsibility, not at the cost of time with other people, all of these things. While we may not directly be answering, this is how you fight gaming addiction, we hit about a lot of things that are important in this conversation that have hopefully been helpful with people. And, a lot of people, when they jump into our Facebook group, this was one thing for me. It's like, oh my gosh, there's all this conversation with video games. I want to play all the games and all the games and all the games. And this guy's playing this. I've got to get it right now. So we have to be careful and recognize that. But I think our group tries to do a good job of, hey, be aware of how you're spending money. Be aware of how you're spending your time. Try to do it within community, or make sure you're reaching out to community. Don't let it be the sake of your time with the Lord and your time with people. Yeah, and if you've checked off these responsibilities and you've got community, is it a blessing that you can take part in? Yes, like God has given us this as a tool for rest and for recreation. So take advantage of that, but not at the sake of other responsibility things for. And that's where some of these things it becomes a mental health issue or an addiction issue when you say, I don't care about my health anymore. I don't care about my community. I'm going to escape people. I'm going to escape the world. I'm going to escape all these issues, whether that may be depression or anxiety or XYZ. And I'm just going to game because this is a safe place for myself. That's what we're saying. There's an issue there that we got to find ways to address those. So,
And see, like, just listening to you talk about that, like, it sounds so much that if there's an excess of gaming where it's just an overabundance of it, it just sounds like a symptom of a deeper issue. And so that's why, I don't know, man. I don't see how it can be a disorder in and of itself. It just, there's something deeper. I mean, there always is. But like I said, once it comes out. But I'll say this too. I mean, dear listener, if you're the person that struggles with some kind of like depression, anxiety, whatever, this is going to be hard for you to hear and even harder for you to do it, but you've got to talk about it. I went like 4 years. Been married for 6. Yeah, for about 3 years, 3 to 4 years almost. I didn't talk about the stuff I was wrestling with in my own head. And the problem with that is it makes it so much worse than what it actually could be. When you talk about the things that you're going through with your pastor, a mentor, your spouse, a group of friends, and they will actually sit there and really listen to you and try to understand. I just take it from me personally. That takes away so much power from that voice in your head, from the things you tell yourself, from just whatever is keeping you mentally paralyzed. You've got to talk about it, because if you don't, you're only hurting yourself at that point. And you don't need to, because if no one else is going to tell you that you're worth it, I'm going to tell you right now, you're worth it. Okay? I don't care who you are. I don't care what background you've come from. I don't care what kind of stuff you're wrestling with. You're worth it. God made you for a purpose. You're created in his image. Psalm 139 says that he wrote down your days as if they were a plan. I don't know about you, but I don't see why God would do that with something that's worthless. You've got worth, but you got to talk about this stuff. You got to get it out there. You got to let go of the power that it has over you. And if you don't know Jesus, as someone else who, wrestles with this stuff and has Jesus, it's just, people want to call Jesus a crutch a lot. And to be honest, yeah, sometimes he is, but that's okay. Because sometimes when we're wrestling, when we're hurting, when we're falling down, we need someone to hold us up. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with asking for help. There's nothing wrong with talking about it. Some of us just need to talk a little bit. And if that's you, dear listener, talk to your pastor. Find some friends.
Yeah, it's hard.
It ain't easy. But my gosh, once you do it, though, you realize how much power you actually have. And you realize how little power, whatever that voice is, or whatever's getting you down, you realize how little power they actually have. And it's just you gotta talk about it,
Yeah, but sometimes we're our biggest enemies at times, but we don't want to downplay them. I mean, there's a lot. Again, we're laymen speaking to this, so if we said something that maybe isn't exactly right, we're not trying to be insensitive. Please accept. We're trying to speak with this as much grace as we can, but we also want to be encouraging. And if there's something we said that you disagree with, let us know. Shoot us an email, message us on Facebook, find us, help us continue to learn. We're just trying to help wrestle with this issue along with other believers as we talk through these serious things. Yeah.
And we'll even pass it off onto you, dear listeners. I mean, what do you think? Can gaming be a mental disorder? Can it not be a mental disorder? Is it a symptom of something else? Let us know in the comments on YouTube, or if you're on Patreon, just let us know. Let's get that conversation rolling, and let's go from there. Adam, good sir. Episode 110 is coming to a close, unfortunately. But some recos, man. What should our dear listeners check out?
Well, dear listener, please receive this with grace. I don't come to the table acting like I know everything. I know very little, and I'm trying to learn. But I do want to challenge, just in the wake of some of the conversation, if you're involved in the Facebook group, the day of our recording, we kind of talked about some memes and things like that. So you're aware of what I'm talking about if you're in the group. But so I just want to provide resources that have challenged me. Sometimes I need I may not even always agree with it, but I need my perspective challenged. And so I've referenced some of these before. I think given the conversation in our Facebook group today, they are helpful. Just and even given that it's Black History Month or whatever, again, be intentional with how you use your time. I'm not saying, I don't need to keep trying to cover myself, but a couple things I want to recommend that I've recommended before I did this the last couple weeks. I'm telling you, Wide Awake is an amazing book. It's helpful. It's going to be challenging. I can't recommend it enough. If you are interested in the conversation we had today and are willing to consider and to be challenged and to, think from other perspectives and empathize in a lot of these things, I cannot. It's at least a good starting book. It definitely doesn't address everything, but I think it is helpful. So Wide Awake by Daniel Hill. It's a book. Another book, Divided by Faith. If we saw anything in our Facebook group, unfortunately today, is that the idea of race can be divisive, and we're not. A lot of us aren't on the same page. And so again, being willing to consider the other side of the argument and not just to lash out and disagree. I'm just asking people to consider, and these are two resources that have meant a lot to me. So I don't remember the author by that, but if you Amazon search it, Divided by Faith, you're gonna find the book. So just a couple book references there, and then a podcast that has challenged me, that has stretched me. I try to listen to it as much as I can. It's called Pass the Mic. It's a couple Christian brothers, African American brothers who are prophetic in some ways and are not afraid to challenge the status quo. Again, I don't always agree with everything they say, but that's been good for me. It's been good for me to be like, okay, how do these men who believe the same doctrine as me, they believe the same theology, they're worshiping the same God, their faith is in the same Jesus Christ who accomplished all of this completed work on the cross, how do they have all these similar things but approach a lot of life issues differently than me? I need to pause and consider their defense instead of just being like, they're wrong, blah, 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 blah. No, I need to pause and say, why are these things being said from their perspective? Why are they considering these things? How can people who read the same book and disagree so much on some different issues, I just need to be considering. And so that's another thing. If you're a podcast person, again, listen with grace. Don't just turn it off the first time you hear something you don't like. Force yourself to listen to it, even if it's hard at times, because sometimes it's in those hard moments that you really grow. But that's easier said than done because it's not always been the easiest path. But I just really wanted to suggest those again. I know, again, for a lot of the dear listeners, if you were in the group today, it was excuse me, I'm sorry. It was kind of a hard conversation, but I'm hoping that out of that hard conversation, there can be some good things, and I just really wanted to suggest those again to the dear listeners.
Yeah, man. As far as my recos go, dear listeners, check out Celeste. Please check out Celeste. If you're playing Monster Hunter, you're playing something else, don't worry about it. But if you're looking for something to play, try it out. I think it's like $20 on PlayStation, PC, Xbox, Switch, all that stuff. Fantastic game, fantastic platformer. And even if you're not into like let's say you played Super Meat Boy and you didn't really like it, this game is way better than Super Meat Boy. Trust me on that.
And there's a story. They say that's pretty good.
It's actually pretty good, and it's actually really funny. There's been a couple times thinking of a scene earlier with the character. It's funny. You'll see what I mean when you play it. My second reco is go away, read a book. Like seriously, I learned today, turn off social media for like several hours and go read a book, like maybe one of the books that Adam reco'd. Go read a podcast, go read a podcast. Go listen to a podcast. Maybe like the one Adam reco'd. Just get off social media. Shut the game off for a little bit. Shut the TV off. Just go do something. I'm trying to do that in my own life, like being active. And I'm like, I don't like being active. I'm learning this because it's like, work, but just go do something. Go woodwork, go walk, go read a book, go to a coffee shop and just hang out for a little bit. I don't know, but just sometimes you just got to shut the PlayStation off. You got to shut the Xbox off or whatever. You got to turn off the notifications on your phone and just enjoy life. Just kind of sit still, be uncomfortable at first because it's like, you feel like you got to do something. Just hang out, enjoy life, breathe in the air, be thankful for what God's given you, and just kind of go from there. Man, getting philosophical? I don't know. Words are hard. Anyway, dear listeners, thank you for checking out this episode of The Reformed Gamers. As always, if you want to head on over to iTunes, leave a rating and review for our show. Let us know what you like about the show. Let potential dear listeners know what makes the show great and things of that nature. As always, subscribe to us on YouTube. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a new upload. And then also consider supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/thereformedgamers. You will get access to our episodes uncut, so you hear all of the mistakes. You hear those early, or you get access to our Patreon exclusive show, The Loot Box, or things of that nature. But as always, you can head over to the website, thereformedgamers.wordpress.com, for show notes and backlogs of episodes. You can join our Facebook group and be part of the discussion, or you can follow us on Twitter at TRG Podcast. But until next time, dear listeners, GG and amen.